Welcome to the Haney Biz Project with Mark Haney. Mark is a serial investorpreneur and the chief dreaming officer of the Haney Biz Companies. He's working tirelessly to ignite the entrepreneurial revolution and share the inspiring stories of the region's most influential leaders. Coming to you from the Marquee Media Studio, here's Mark Haney.
All right. Welcome to the Haney Biz Project. I'm Mark Haney. And today we are going to be sharing a story of education. We are going to be, on this show, we talk about entrepreneurship week after week after week, and we love entrepreneurship. We love telling the stories of how to win. But today we're going to be talking about how we learn how to win, right? How we learn as entrepreneurs how to win. Is that different than how we learn in school? I'm here with Marcus Haney. Marcus, how you doing, buddy? You hanging or banging?
I am hanging here with a little bit of the school here, right? So
yeah, we have Whitney High School. He's coming on the show. We have three great guests today. We have Ben Barnholdt. He is the man behind Whitney High School's broadcast division, right? They're here to critique us a little bit today, talk to us about how they learn broadcasting right here in our hometown of Rocklin, California, and they learn broadcasting. We also have Willy Duncan, the man behind Sierra College right here in Rocklin as well. And then we also have Leroy Tripette. He is coming on the show, and he's going to be talking about what he does over at Cristo Rey. But as we think about how we learn, right? It's something where, we all have to keep learning in life. Me, even at 54 years old, I am still learning, but I reflect back to the way I learned growing up, the way I've learned as I've gone through my entrepreneurial career. And it really wasn't through textbooks. Marcus, How about you? How'd you learn how to be a Marine? Was that in the training manual?
It wasn't quite in the manual. They gave us a few pointers, but, you got to get out there, scrape your knees a little bit and find out what you're good at, what you're not good at, and try to put yourself in a position to maximize the stuff that you are good at.
Well, when you were in the Marine Corps, what did you determine that you're good at?
Blowing stuff up, shooting guns, hanging out with my buddies.
Breaking things, killing people. Now, you did some things in the Marines that really prepared you, though, to be an entrepreneur. Now you are building a business. What did you learn in the Marine Corps that really helped you to advance this next stage of your life? Well, I think for you, that was kind of like your textbook time, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't go to college. I went for a couple semesters. It wasn't really my cup of tea, so I decided to go learn from the School of Hard Knocks a little bit. But, a couple of things I did learn from the Marine Corps is how to be a leader, right? How to get people to follow you into the most dangerous places in the world. And as an infantry squad leader, I had to have 12 other gentlemen follow me into combat situations. So, not only finding the way to get them to believe in, your word, but also believe that you'll always be by your side. And I guess that's why we use that here on the show.
Yeah, definitely. And I think as we think about winning, right? There's an education process in leadership. There's an education process in winning. We're going to talk about that today on the show with three experts, but it makes me think about what we're attempting to do here in this Sacramento entrepreneurial revolution, right? The first thing that I'm trying to do is get myself famous out there, and thanks to Marquee Media, they're helping us get ourselves famous. The other day, Marcus, you and I were out at Top Golf.
Yeah, for Hunter's birthday.
For your son's birthday. And having a great time, and the guy next to us comes up, and he says, "Hey, you're Mark Haney, aren't you?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh, yeah, I follow you on Facebook. I've seen you on your billboards and all that kind of stuff." And I'm like, "All right, man, I have a fan."
He was trying to pitch you a business, too,
He's
wasn't he?
pitching me an idea, and then I got up, and he saw my golf swing. Oh. He never talked to me again. I don't know. Thank you, Marquee Media. We appreciate the fame. Sometimes it doesn't help to get famous.
Sometimes you swing and miss.
It can be a little bit embarrassing, but today it will not be embarrassing. We have three outstanding guests coming up. Like I said, we have Leroy Tripette coming up a little bit later in the show, Ben Barnholdt coming up later in the show, and after the break, we are going to have Willy Duncan. He is the man behind Sierra College. Join the revolution at HaneyBiz.com, brought to you courtesy of Chicago Fire. This is the Haney Biz Project.
Now, back to Marquee Media Studio and the Haney Biz Project with your host, Mark Haney.
Welcome back to the Haney Biz Project, brought to you courtesy of Comstocks Magazine and California Backyard. Today, I have the privilege of bringing on the president of California's top community college, Mr. Willy Duncan from Sierra College. How you doing, Willy?
That's right. I'm great. Thanks, Mark. Thanks for having me today.
I appreciate you coming on, and we want to know about you personally. We want to know about Sierra College, and I know there's some important things happening right now for you guys. But let's talk about Willy Duncan. Who's Willy Duncan?
Well, let's see. I mean, I'm the president of Sierra College, obviously you mentioned, but I'm a family man, wife and 3 kids, couple little grandkids, and
Nice.
and enjoy my time with them. That's why I do what I do.
Okay, so when you're in your downtime, when you're hanging, what are you doing? What's it look like for Willy Duncan when he's not wearing the Sierra College hat? Because that's your work time, man. That's your banging time.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, absolutely. Well, let's see. We have a little bit of property, so I'm usually working on my property. My wife keeps me busy. She says she likes to keep my head from getting a little too big,
Yeah.
working at the college.
I
So
have
I do
that same sort of thing at the house.
Exactly. And then, spend time with the family. I'm a big sports fan too, so
Nice.
pay attention to little sports and maybe get out, play a little golf, do some things like that.
All right, so now what's banging look like at Sierra College? The president of this massive operation, what do you do to make Sierra College hum?
Sierra College is an amazing place. We've got a lot of folks that work there to make it hum. My job as the president of the college is to ensure everybody's doing their job and stay on top of it. I think I believe in entrepreneurship. I believe in kind of thinking out of the box. I think that makes us better, and so I like to drive us in that way. And so I'm always trying to think about what's coming next out into the future and engaging with the community, talking to folks like you and
Well,
our
I
young
know you're
people.
engaged in the community and do so much for entrepreneurship in our community, but within your team, were you meaning that you created an entrepreneurial type mindset within the team?
I do, absolutely. I think I encourage them to think that way. I try, honestly, when I manage people, I don't micromanage. I give them autonomy to do their job. And what I always tell them is, I'll never fault you for doing things for the benefit of students.
Yeah.
So think out of the box. If you make a mistake, that's okay. If we were really trying to do our best for our students, then that's all we can ask.
Yeah, and so thinking about the number of direct reports, we're thinking about like how organizations work. And how many employees are there?
Well, counting all our part-time faculty, we've got about 1,300 employees.
Okay, so how many people are a direct report to Willy Duncan in an operation that size?
I've got about probably a dozen direct
Wow.
reports.
Okay.
That report directly to me, and then of course they've got our vice presidents have big operations with lots of folks that report to them too.
And how important is sharing the vision and the mission?
I think that's extremely important within any organization, especially one that size. It's really hard for things to permeate the entire organization, and you really want to impact the culture of the organization so that everybody understands the direction that you're going, and they can all work towards it. And generally, I think people want to be involved in an organization where they understand what the purpose is, what you're trying to do. And so I think that helps our employees when they can see that, and then they feel they're part of that mission.
And when you have one of your leaders, one of your direct reports, you begin to hear the words coming out of their mouth that sound a lot like yours. I mean, how does that feel when you've created some evangelists, right? The leaders are actually leading with your message. How does that feel?
That's like being a proud dad, It's actually, those are the best moments completely, is when you hear other people saying the things that you have either said or that you've talked about. And then that kind of that's really taken off. I love that. I love to see our people succeed in that way.
Yeah, well, great things are happening at Sierra College. I think everything is a leadership issue. So whether it's good or bad, obviously we want to give credit down to the team or to the team, up to the team.
Yep.
But it starts, I think, with leadership. But what are you doing? So you're not only are you built your faculty and your teammates are leaders, but you're developing that next set of leaders. Talk to us about the students and their development.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we have a great community, and Sierra College is no different. And so we've got a fantastic group of students, about 20,000 students at Sierra College, and that really is what they're trying to figure out. They're trying to figure out what's that next step for them. How do they get ahead? If they want to have a career and move into some sort of work, can they get the training from us, or can they transfer on to a 4-year from us? And so we're trying to help kind of instill those thoughts to them. You mentioned entrepreneurship. That's one of the things that we've been really working on. And the idea is really to instill entrepreneurship ideas throughout our curriculum to all of our students. So it's not just a business student that wants to own their own business, but it's really for all students to start to kind of think that way.
As Marcus and I were talking before the show, I was thinking about how I learned, and I think I learned more from people or maybe experiences that happened to me, right? The School of Hard Knocks or people that inspired me, not so much in the textbooks. How do you relate to that? Do you agree with that, or where do we learn most? The textbooks, or through people, or experience?
You know what? I think it's got to be a combination, and you are absolutely right. Everybody learns a little bit differently, and so some people can sit down and read textbook, get a lot of knowledge. That may not translate into being very applicable in the real world all the time, though. So I think you've got to also have that experience. I'm a big believer in work experience for students in high school, in college, because I think that gives you that that idea to understand. I mean, you're going to deal with people on a day-to-day basis, right? And so you have to learn how to do that. And the only way to do it is to actually practice it and actually do it.
What do you think people learn most when they go to Sierra College?
Oh my gosh!
I mean, I say that because we're talking about people launching to that next part of their life, and then people there are transitioning. Most of them out of high school. I know you have older people there too, but people are thinking about what they want to do with their life.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, no, they really are. But you mentioned it. We do actually have a pretty large percent of our population that comes back for retraining.
Okay.
And I think it depends on the program they're in. Some students come to us, they know they want to get a 4-year degree. They're really trying to explore themselves, figure out who they are, what they want to be. Other people come with the real direct. I mean, they want to be a police officer and then our police academy. And they're getting really direct skills training that's going to allow them to come right out and go right to work. Whereas the other person that's really trying to explore is trying to get a broad knowledge base of a lot of different topics, kind of broaden themselves out.
Some of the most successful people I know went through Sierra College, and I think some of the most successful people in Sacramento started off at Sierra College. But now you're looking to make some changes. You have a ballot on the initiative on the ballot that could help you to continue to migrate or grow the opportunities there at Sierra. What's going on?
Yeah, we do. Measure E is on the ballot for this June, and it's a bond measure to help us reinvest into the facilities of the campus. I really look at it as an economic development initiative because if you look at the programs that Sierra College has, we really are about training folks to go to work in our local community or allowing them to get the base education they need to move on with their higher education career. So, but our buildings are old. 1961, when the campus was opened up, the original bond was passed in 57 to build it, and there hasn't been one since. So about 60 years of usage on the buildings, and we invest annually in maintaining them, but we need a bigger investment to really actually take those existing buildings and turn them into something that's going to last another 60 years, expand what we do so we can train more students, and add new buildings. There's some new things we need to be able to do too.
So what, in raising the money to do this, how will this change Rocklin? How will this change the greater Sacramento area?
Yeah. So I think you've already mentioned the role Sierra College plays right now and what a positive role it is in not just in the region, but really in the state as one of the state leaders as a community college. So we want to be able to expand what we do. And I think the power of a community college within our community is really that opportunity for local folks to get the training they need, to get the higher ed they need right here. And, as we're trying to attract more business into this community, which means jobs, which means a growing economy for us, or as we're trying to support entrepreneurs, well, where's that workforce going to come from? It's going to come from Sierra College.
You bet.
And so we just want to be able to expand that opportunity. And so it provides an opportunity for local businesses and folks that want to locate their businesses here, but also for folks that live here. To be able to build their skills and develop what they do.
Well, Sierra College does so much for the entrepreneurial community. You're invested into Hacker Lab, but you also do things at your school. I went and spoke to a group about entrepreneurial accounting. Talk to us about the importance of entrepreneurship for Sierra College.
Yeah. So I really think entrepreneurship is a mindset. And it is, that's why I was saying before, we want to ingrain that thought process into all of our programs so that people have that mindset. And it's really a mindset about thinking out of the box, about taking risk, about, creating new ideas and new thoughts, about it's not a selfish idea either. Entrepreneurs, oftentimes people view it as, oh, well, they're just interested in profit. But really, if you're an entrepreneur, you're really interested in kind of making things better, in taking things that already exist and improving upon them. and finding new ways of doing things that other people can then build upon too. So taking that mindset for young people and helping them build that, I think, is just really, really important.
Willie, I want to thank you for coming on the show today. I want to thank you for what you do here in our community and in shaping the minds of young people and old people alike. Good luck on your ballot. I am on your measure. I am a supporter, big time, of Sierra College and what you are doing. So join the revolution at HaneyBiz.com. Brought to you courtesy of Audi Rocklin and DCA Capital. This is the Haney Biz Project.
Welcome back to the Marquee Media Studio with Mark Haney, igniting the entrepreneurial revolution with the Haney Biz Project.
Welcome back to the Haney Biz Project, brought to you courtesy of Hub International and Legion AVS. I'm Mark Haney, and I have the privilege of being joined by Leroy Tripette. He is the man behind Cristo Rey High School in Sacramento. How you doing, Leroy?
Doing really good. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here.
Well, I love, I love entrepreneurship, and I love the way you are preparing young people to join the workforce. And some of these young people are going to become entrepreneurs, right? Talk to us about what's going on over at Cristo Rey.
Oh man, Cristo Rey, amazing school. We've got almost 400 students coming from low-income homes that all want an opportunity to enter our region's workforce and make an impact. We've got students that are looking for positions at businesses around our region. The business then gives that student the work experience, and these kids get the opportunity to learn transferable skills that they can use when they proceed to college.
Now, Cristo Rey is a high school, am I right?
That's correct.
So we have young people in high school going into businesses like Five Star Bank, like Haney Biz, other regular businesses where they have office jobs, right?
That's exactly it. Yeah, these are students that are looking for entry-level administrative clerical positions that normally would be filled by a typical full-time employee, that our kids come in, or our students come in and do that for the business.
What a head start for a young person to come in and work at Five Star Bank along James Beckwith, the president over there. There's not another entity like you in this region, is there?
We are part of a national network,
Okay.
but we are the only one in northern Sacramento. There are actually 32 Cristo Reys around the country, but we are it for this region. We are the ones that are making the impact and giving this opportunity to these kids.
Well, it definitely makes an impact on our businesses, but how does it impact the child?
For the kid, these are students that are coming from, homes where the parents didn't go to college. Many of them may not even have gotten through high school. Migrant-type workers, students, that are coming from very low-income situations. So these jobs, these opportunities give the students multiple things. One, it gives them the chance, as I said earlier, to learn those transferable skills. But two, it really builds their self-confidence and really shows these students what possibilities exist for them in their future. And it's just amazing to see them blossom as they enter a freshman, because our students go to work at 14.
Okay.
And seeing them go from freshman year to their senior year.
What goes through their mind when they walk in? I'm a 14-year-old, and I walk in, and I'm going to work at a bank. I mean, that's completely out of their comfort zone, I have to assume.
Oh yeah. These students, a lot of these students, again, never seen a large business. We have stories of, one year there was a student that started work down on Capitol Mall downtown, 23rd floor.
Putting on a little business suit.
Well, they do wear. They do have to wear a button-down shirt and tie. So we do have some professional dress code attire for them. But he shows up, and 23rd floor is where he's got to go to work, and he has no concept of how to get there.
Yeah.
Because he's never been in a high-rise building. He's never used an elevator. So the kid is just in tears trying to understand that. So there's so many things that we take for granted.
I'm like that when I go downtown myself. And some of these elevators, like, oh, that only goes to that floor. That goes to the other floor. I can only imagine being 14.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But
So
then you walk in the door, and let's say it's a law firm, and everybody is buttoned down working and getting paid $400 an hour or whatever they get paid. And then I'm a 14-year-old that comes from a low-income background. That's got to be even more intimidating.
It can be a little intimidating for the students. We try to prepare them as best we can. Their freshman summer, we actually give them a 3-week summer institute where we train them on soft skills. We give them entry-level Microsoft Office training. So we try to prepare them for some of that. But yeah, it's a growing experience for them. It's an opportunity for them to learn and see things out of their comfort level.
Well, what's a success story look like?
Oh my goodness. We've got several of them. We've got a young lady who graduated from Cristo Rey, got a full ride to University of Pacific, doctorate of pharmacology,
Wow.
who now came back to our region, is working here. There's a student that went and got an electrical engineering degree from Berkeley, works over at Intel. We've got a lot of these things. I mean, that's what's key to our program. We have, these young students that we hear over and over again, workforce development. Where do we build our pipeline? I've got a group of diverse students that want to be in our community and want to go to college, learn a trade, learn a skill, and come back and work here. It's fabulous.
Well, it's a diverse set of students, but it's not easy to get into the program. Am I right?
It takes a little bit. We actually have a waiting list. One of the first things, first and foremost, is the finances. Our students come in at or below the federal poverty level. So that means average medium income is about $40,000 for a family of four, and most of our students are below that. So that's your first piece that we have to look at. But after that, there is a rigorous assessment test that we do, as well as interviews with our students. Just make sure that they really are a good fit, since we are putting these students to work in businesses, and that they want to be here, and it's not something that their parents are just pushing for them.
We have a couple of those students here at Haney Biz, and they help out in our accounting and our support. And I was asking the team, what do you think of the kids over from Cristo Rey? And our team loves your students. What do you do to get them prepared besides the interview process and getting in and the screening? What do you do to get them prepared so that when they walk into Haney Biz, they're banging, right? They are firing on all cylinders. Somehow they come in and they are working. How do you do that?
Well, first of all, I should say your student is so well loved. One of your students won the Employee of the Month award. That hasn't been shared yet with the student. I think he finds out tomorrow.
Oh, man,
you guys
love
are doing great work here too.
Thank you very much.
But yeah, it's giving them giving them those soft skills opportunities, giving them the skill, the opportunity to learn a little more about what it means to go into a professional setting. Our students, our teachers also work with our students on preparing them. And sometimes we have guest speakers that'll come in and talk to the students as well, giving them an insight into what it means to be at a professional business.
I'm wondering what we talked about what success looks like, but how do you measure success for the organization? Are there certain metrics, like how many go on to college and things like that?
We've got all sorts. The Cristo Rey Network is focused on very specific metrics. I mean, one of them financially is 90% of our students are supposed to be in paid positions. We have metrics that track how well we persist. I think the network goal is 70%.
What do you mean persist?
Persist as in come to our school as a ninth grader
Okay.
and graduate all the way, finish and graduate.
Gotcha.
And the goal is 70%. Our school is now trending around 80. So, we're doing some good things there. Thank you. And then I think the other success, again, is just the stories we see of our students in our community.
Thinking about what you might want the business community to know about Cristo Rey, what kind of businesses, I mentioned us, 5-star law firm, what kind of business is a good fit for Cristo Rey? Is a construction company swinging a hammer a good fit? I'm assuming no.
No, that's not necessarily where we're trying to go. Again, we want these students to have a different experience than what they have been seeing their families in.
Okay.
So we want them to have something more upskill, if you will, of again that office environment, that corporate white collar, if you could, type of role. But we have the real answer is it's any business that has a passion for educating our young students and giving them the opportunity to succeed, and someone that can mentor the student. We got businesses that work with us from a base level. They're doing the simple entry-level clerical type work. I've got businesses that work with us where our students at our IT technology center, they do technology refresh, patches, security. We've got a law firm that's been with us for years, uses our students as law clerks in depositions because many of our students are bilingual. It gives that opportunity to have our students come in and be able to help those translations. So we really run the gamut.
If I was to ask one of your students, do you learn more from the experience working in the field, or do you learn more from the textbook? What do you think they'd tell me?
They're going to say the field, hands down. We actually every morning we get our students to a check-in before we send them on our vans to the different work sites, and we will have students that will come up with all sorts of excuses not to come to school, but on the day that they go to work, they will be hiding their sniffle or trying to do whatever they can to make sure they can get to the work site because they really, really value and feel that they learn so much from being engaged in the business community.
I was inspired to take a hard look at Cristo Rey from a guy named Dave Lucchetti, right? A very, very successful business guy. Over at his house one day, run into you, and we didn't know each other well. But who inspired you? How did you get involved in Cristo Rey?
Oh, goodness. Well, I could probably say Dave Lucchetti to some degree because I've known him for several years, and he is a wonderful supporter of the school. In my own personal story, I'm a computer scientist by education. And then somehow along my career path, ended up in workforce development and helping build programs, pipeline programs on getting students of color interested in STEM careers. And so that's kind of how I found out and fell into Cristo Rey. It was a full application of what I've kind of been doing over my career.
Well, I can only imagine it's like one of the most rewarding things that you could be doing with your life is helping the young people, helping that next one in line.
Oh, exactly. It's amazing. I mean, and seeing what these students do. I mean, and you talked about entrepreneurship. We even have some of our students that are running their own businesses while here at the school. There's a young man that has his own bounce house and party rental service that he does while working for a law firm and while also helping out with his family. So it really is just so enriching to be able to have a positive impact on these students' lives and help make this happen.
Leroy Tripette, I want to thank you for coming on the show today, for what you do for the greater Sacramento area, what you do for Haney Biz as well, bringing your students to us to help us get our job done around here. When we return, I will be joined by Ben Barnholdt, the director of the award-winning broadcasting and media program at Whitney High School. Coming up after the break, join the revolution at HaneyBiz.com, brought to you courtesy of Chicago Fire and Apex Appraisal Services. This is the Haney Biz Project.
And now, back to the Haney Biz Project with investorpreneur Mark Haney, coming to you from the Marquee Media Studio.
Welcome back to the Haney Biz Project, brought to you courtesy of accounting firm Clifton Larson Allen and California Growth Advisors. I'm Mark Haney, and today I am joined by Ben Barnholdt, the director of the award-winning broadcast and media program at Whitney High School. How you doing, Ben?
I'm doing awesome, man. I'm living the dream. Thanks for having me and all of us here.
Well, yeah, in the background here, we have the Whitney High School broadcast team, which they're award-winning. We know that they are great, but tell us about what makes them so great.
Well, this is a weird turn of events here because usually I'm the one standing behind them and supporting them. So for them to be here is pretty awesome.
Very cool.
And I'll tell you, this is a group of people here right now and back at the station that work super hard. They have an incredible work ethic and an incredible drive, and they're always trying to get better. They love constructive criticism, and they're just trying to be the best they can be.
You know, it's interesting because you talked about work ethic. We don't learn work ethic through a textbook. Where do we get our work ethic from?
I think a lot of them get it from their parents. A lot of them get it from their, we have a sign before you leave to walk out the door that says commitment to excellence. And we define what a commitment to excellence means, and it's a commitment to each other. So if you're going to be there, if you need to be there at 7 o'clock, we're going to be there at 6:55. And that's kind of a motto that they live by. So we don't actually start school till 7:40. But when they do our daily show, they're standing at the door at 7 o'clock waiting to get in, open it.
How much time do you spend looking at textbooks?
We don't have textbooks.
No textbooks in a classroom? What? How do you learn?
Experience and trying and failing, honestly. I hope that if I could do anything with them, we give them a safe place to fail. Make a mistake, because the consequence here is it's not what it is in our world, in the real world. It's a place to take a risk. And if it doesn't work out, we're going to pick you up. And we have a belief in our classroom, this idea of Ohana, and that we're all family and that we're going to look out for one another, and they live it. It's not just something that hangs on the wall. It's something they live every single day.
Well, you talk about what's written on the wall or what's hanging on the wall. When you walk into your classroom, what do we feel? What is this outsider supposed to feel, and what do we feel?
I would say you would feel a sense of progress and future, and that you can take a risk and that your dreams can come true. And in that context, my favorite part of the room is the biggest wall of our room is all their college pennants. And over the last 10 years, I would say there's probably close to 50, 60 pennants up there, and they've got 11 more that are coming, and there's more that are coming. So it's the opportunity to take a risk. You don't have to go into broadcast, but just to try, get out there, and even if it doesn't work out, we're going to help you out. And those critical thinking, leadership skills, teamwork skills are what are going to get them to the schools they're going to.
Well, when I've been into your classroom, it looks like walking onto a newsroom set, right? It lights, cameras all over the place. The pennants are important, but how do you use the set to develop the work that goes into winning those pennants?
I would say that we create a daily show, so we have about a 15-minute long daily show Monday through Friday, and then we also do about 25 to 30 live events. We do some award shows for our athletic department, we do football games, and then just about a month ago, we finally got our live video production trailer. It's a 25-foot long trailer that we're still working on building out.
Nice.
We put all the equipment over it. We worked over spring break putting the equipment in it. And then we actually used it last week, kind of testing it out for a dance show. And it's the tipping point of something pretty awesome that's coming that this community will see pretty soon.
Describe to us, besides the pennants, what goes into it? What's a success story look like?
Oh man, them right here, and the 84 of the kids that are in the program.
How many are there?
84 each year that we load into the program. Wow. Yep. And then so I teach 7 out of 8 classes. Most teachers will usually teach 6, and so we have so many people that want to be a part of it. It ends up being about 7 out of 8 classes. And a success story is a student who is willing to listen and really want to buy into constructive criticism. And for a lot of them, if you look at them right now, they would tell you, okay, what can I do better? What can I do? Here's what I did. Help me out. What's next? And that to me is a success story, and never quitting and always willing to try.
Well, during the break, we were having them sort of critique me on how I was doing it. They were picking me apart pretty good. I was a little embarrassed, but you know what? We have professionals. This is kind of an awkward day where I have professionals critiquing me, but it's actually fun. But what do you do as a teacher? Part of what you do must be encouragement, but there must be also the criticism that comes along with it too.
It is, because everything that we do is very public, so nothing is hidden. There's nothing, you can't hide behind anything. Even and for them in a world of social media and of being on a high school campus, everything they do is public. So if they have a bad interview or they have bad audio, they have to sit in their class and watch that play. And so you develop some pretty thick skin very quickly. But the fact that they actually took that risk, that they went out and interviewed somebody that maybe they didn't know, and they had 4 classes, and then they went to work, and then they're doing that on top of that and writing it at midnight. Those are all success stories. But I gotta be honest with you, I've learned over time that I got to build a smart team. So I have an administration that supports us. We have a district that believes in what they're doing. And then I don't shoot the videos, so they're the ones that get out there and make it happen. So I'm nothing without them. So they're the ones that make it happen.
Yeah. Well, how many go on to stay in journalism or stay in the media?
I would say about 50-50. There's I would say 100% of them use it on college applications. They use it on resumes. They use it to get jobs within the community. I'll be honest with you, and in baseball terms, I'm probably about 1,000 as far as when these kids want to go out and get a job. They're going to look you in the eye, they're going to shake your hand, and they're probably going to end up asking you more questions than you ask them. And by the time you walk out, they're getting a phone call, hey, when do you want to start? Wow. And it's that is one of my favorite parts is hearing those stories. Well,
nobody bats 1,000 in my mind, but obviously it's happening here at Whitney High School. I know that there's nothing else like this in the region. Am I right?
There are some schools that do video production and production programs, and they're awesome. Del Oro's got a really good program, okay. and Christian Brothers and Granite Bay. So there are some other schools out there that are doing something similar. But I think at the level of how much they're doing, we do it on a daily basis, and I don't know too many schools that are doing that.
Are there people that want to move into the Rocklin district so they can go to your school?
I would think so, but I'm not really 100%.
There's no inter-district transferring happening so they can be a part of Ben Barnholdt's program?
That might be, but I don't want to hear. I don't know about that.
Can't talk about that.
Yes,
that's not
yes.
legal.
Yeah.
Okay, talking about what's going on over at Whitney, what does progress look for you in the coming years?
Right now, we're in a transition period. So half of the students here are the ones going to college, and the next half are coming in. And we actually have a belief and a philosophy that hangs up on the wall that says, work like you have something to prove, not like you're preserving a legacy. So the younger kids right here, they don't want to necessarily just live on what was in the past. They want to make their own path and their own legacy. And that happens every single year. That's why I love what I do. Not working. I'm going in and we're trying to discover how can we take our program and let's make it 1% better. And then by December, 2 or 3% better. And by the time they graduate, sky's the limit. But we've already reached a certain point. That's for one group, but not for the next group.
no textbooks. Obviously, it's working. How would you describe your style as contrasting a typical classroom? Obviously, I can sense a style difference, but I'm wondering about you personally. How do you do it differently?
I would tell you, I would never ask them to do something that I'm not going to do with them. So if I'm going to and if we're going to work and you're going to edit till 5 o'clock, I'm sitting right next to you till 5 o'clock. And if I'm going to ask you to get there at 7 o'clock, or we're going to a national convention and we need to get up at 6, we're going to be there. I'll be there at 5:45 waiting for you, and we'll get some coffee and we'll make it work. But there's never going to be a time where they're going to have to do something that I'm not going to be sitting right next to you doing the same thing.
Yeah. Where did your background, where did your philosophy come from? What inspires you to do this?
I would say I was in TV in college, and then I worked part-time even as a teacher when I knew I was going to get married and I wanted to buy a wedding ring. I worked part-time and taught at the same time. And I would say that my work ethic would probably come from family. I had a single mom, and she worked 3 jobs for my brother and I know no different. So we sleep eventually, right?
Yeah, without a doubt. Well, you can hear the students in the background. They're chuckling because they've seen this man in action, and it's very impressive what you're doing over at Whitney High School. Just thinking about closing thoughts for people who are thinking about jumping into the broadcast industry or trying out a class at their media department. What should they be thinking? What advice would you give?
I would say that you have to take a risk. And even if it's on a phone, we've gone to numerous conventions and they'll tell you, even if it's on a phone or a handheld or whatever, it's always about the story. It's never about the device. So it doesn't matter how fancy your camera is. If the story is not very good, no one's going to watch it. You can shoot it on a cell phone, and if it's a really compelling, good story, millions of people will watch it.
What makes a good story?
A good character and some story development and really having some focus. A lot of times we get a little bit carried away and we get too much in the story and convolute the story. I think if you have a little bit of focus and you really get to the emotion of the story, that's what they do really, really well.
What's a bad story look like?
One that doesn't get turned in on time.
I love it. All right, closing thoughts. Thinking about entrepreneurship in media. Obviously, I'm turning this radio opportunity into an entrepreneurial opportunity for myself. But how many of these students will go on to become entrepreneurs?
I would say in some perspective, almost all of them. You gotta think about this for a second. The students sitting here don't get paid, and they're there 40 minutes before school starts, and they're staying 2 or 3 hours afterwards. So they just believe in a culture. So if I would say to anyone, even if you had a business, sit next to the people, wander around and get to know them, believe in them, and give them an opportunity. And when they fail, pick them up. And I think that's what they're really good at, even with their own peers.
Yeah. They will all be an entrepreneur in some way. I want to thank you, Ben, for coming on, bringing on your class with you. Very inspiring for me as I attempt to be a radio boy myself. Next week, we're going to have Kwame Anku and John Ralston sharing their entrepreneurial journeys. When we return, Marcus and I will share our takeaways and closing thoughts. Join the revolution at HaneyBiz.com, brought to you courtesy of Ethan Conrad Properties and financial advisors, Stifel Financial. This is the Haney Biz Project.
Welcome back to the Marquee Media Studio for Mark's takeaways from today's Haney Biz Project.
Welcome back to the Haney Biz Project, brought to you courtesy of Silver's HR and 5 Star Bank. I'm Mark Haney. I am rejoined by the marine entrepreneur, Marcus Haney. Today, to me, this was kind of like a defining moment in the show. 3 very inspirational stories of how we learn and things, people who are giving everything they have to the next people in line. So, Marcus, closing thoughts, takeaways?
I thought it was great. I loved when Ben said that they come in and work like they've got something to prove. And I think that's a great mentality young high school students take into their class every single day. It's a rarity, in my opinion, so that's really cool.
I agree. And as we listen to Leroy talk about the Cristo Rey students walking into that elevator and being confused on which elevator takes you to what floor, and how do you navigate a high-rise as a 14-year-old who probably hasn't been in that situation before. Kind of a defining moment in our lives. I think sometimes we don't know those defining moments until later. I'm assuming that 14-year-old boy will be sharing that story about the first time he jumped into that intimidating situation, but he figured out a way to overcome. He figured out a way to persevere, battle through his nerves, and have a successful career or opportunity there at Cristo Rey. And so that's rewarding to me to hear it.
And our kid got Employee of the Year? Is
Yeah,
that right?
incredible.
God, how humbling is that?
Maybe that is something that will change his outlook. And I think these defining moments, like what happened today, I think for us, what may be happening on a regular basis at Whitney High School, at Sierra College, and at Cristo Rey, these defining moments, I think, help us as we look back on our life. You know, now as a 54-year-old guy, I look back on my life and think, boy, what were those moments, right, that seemed like they changed everything. And there's been a number of them, but even going back to being a young person, I draw back on those lessons, those defining moments, more often the moments than the textbook, right? It's more often what we learn through this experience, through being in the arena by getting punched in the mouth,
Right.
or by maybe having some success, getting recognized as Employee of the Month. That's when we realize those values and philosophies are reinforced. And thinking back to my story of the day is going to go back. I'm going to take myself back to that time. And I think it was a defining moment. There I was, 6th grade, and I was a pretty good baseball player. Not the best, but I was pretty good. But I was a little bit of a punk, a little cocky, thought I was probably better than what I was. It may have been false confidence. And there we were at Richards Field in Roseville, you know, and back then, Richards Field at Roseville High School was the biggest, baddest Little League field around. The Bobby Sox girls were there. All the Little
Now we're
League guys were
talking.
there. It was the place to be on a Friday night. So there I was in my cutoff shorts, boxers, kind of hanging out of the shorts, and the little bit long hair as compared to today's standards coming out of my hat. And they're saying from the Giants, you know, and they announced the name of the All-Star. We all got to go out and run on the field. And there I was waiting for my all-star name to get called. And there I was from the A's, Robbie Bosco. From the Dodgers, Hank DeMello. And there I was. And my name, they kept going. We're like at 12, 13 members had been announced to come out on the field. And all of a sudden I started to panic. I'm like, is my name going to get called? Because I had been head faking, like I'm going to run out there. Every time they would say somebody's name, I'd joke with my buddies, here I go, you know, it's my turn. And they got done with all 14, and my name was not called. And I was like, whoa. And everybody was there. The whole town, in my mind, was there. And I had this feeling inside that it was embarrassment. It was hurt, I suppose, disappointment. And I just started, you know, how do you deal with that at that moment? I still remember it so well. And I decided to go out for a run. And I started running around the track over at Roseville High School and thinking, right, looking in the mirror, if you will, contemplating, had I done what I needed to do to make the All-Star team? And, you know, had I practiced and that kind of thing? And I don't know that I had practiced enough. Obviously, I didn't, or I would have made the team. But I got into running that day, right? That was a defining moment that made me want. I guess I've been running ever since. I've been running and running and running all through building these businesses and selling business. I've been running like I have to work 10 times harder than anybody else in order to achieve what I want. And so I know I took my running over to Oakmont High School across town, which is where I would ultimately go, and I began running around the track over there. I made it a habit for myself to do my running. And you know what I noticed, Marcus? I noticed this guy by the name of Bruce Anderson, right?
Oh, yeah.
Bruce Anderson, as I would run around Oakmont, I saw this guy named Bruce Anderson, and he was always taking ground balls with his dad out there on the baseball field. His dad would hit him repeatedly over and over. Every time I go out to Oakmont High School, I would see Bruce and his dad practicing. And it just reinforced to me that sometimes in life, things don't sort of come naturally to you. You might think that things are going to come easy, but everything I've ever done in my life, I think, has been 10 times harder than I expected it to be. So now in my world, I think I have to set my goals 10 times higher. I always set my goals 10 times higher. That's why we're trying to ignite an entrepreneurial revolution. It sounds almost impossible to transform your hometown, but I've got to set the goal so high because I know that will force me to work 10 times harder. And so if I had any advice to anybody that's out here listening to the show today, it's like set your goals as high as possible. Don't get overconfident, and always expect to work 10 times harder, especially if you have my talent. You know you're going to have to work a heck of a lot harder. So as we go to break, as we end the show today and think about a call to action for any of us is go ahead and expect to win, right? We know that happens in life if we look at what we're good at, right? If we look in the mirror, as we run around the track, think about where you're good at. I never became a great baseball player. Here I am. I knew I was a hard worker, and I took it here to building business.
Heck of a runner.
Yeah, I became a CrossFit guy. But just as a Sacramento salute out to all the entrepreneurs out there who are looking to build their dream, who are building their dream now, to all those fighting their good fight for our freedom and our way of life, guys like you, Marcus, who have risked it all, to the 13 stripes and to the 50 stars, and to the one big American education, always worth fighting for, yours. Never above you, never below you,
Always by your side.